Begin to feel how the muscles of your back are receiving this flat plane right now. It's so nice to have support and structure. And so that's what the floor and what the earth is providing for us right now. The way that we're going to work through our Yogilates class today is all about starting with strengthening some of these lower chakra areas. So these will be strengthening stuff for the legs, for the hips, and especially working up into that third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, helping to build a very strong core. So the idea is by strengthening these areas and also stretching them out in good ways, we're imagining that we're supercharging these low chakras. Think of it like a plant that wants to go really tall. It needs to have a good, strong structural base in order to be able to get all the height that it wants to grow into. So think of that with our energy. If we are not grounded, if we're not rooted, then we might topple over by trying to grow higher. So if we're trying to lift our energy up to higher emotional states and higher, just vibrational states, but yet we're not grounded, then like that plant, it's not likely that we'll make it very far. And so today we're supercharging those lower three chakras to help make it possible for us to continue to send our energy higher upward and just feel better in our bodies. And so with that idea to help lead us toward our practice today, let's begin. We'll start off with the knees coming into the chest. Do a couple of nice little movements, checking in with the hips, checking in with the sacrum, with the low back. Just noticing what's going on within our physical body today. Beautiful. And then from here, as we release our feet back down to the ground, almost like we're setting up for a bridge pose, our hands will go on the floor by our hips. And before we get to the full bridge pose today, we're going to play with just a slight tilting of the hips and the sacrum. So what we're going to do is kind of like a rocking on our sacrum. First, we arch the low back, almost like an exaggeration arch, so that the tailbone is pushing into the ground. And then we do the other way. So we push the low back into the ground, and then the tailbone just barely lifts. And so take that a few times, just rocking to each direction. And what I specifically want you to notice is what the core does to allow it to happen each time. So notice with the low back arch, with that part of it, it's almost like we're taking all of the muscles of the front of our core, the abdominal muscles, out of it, and they're just kind of stretching, versus when the tailbone's lifting and the low back is pushing into the ground, we're feeling that contraction of the core start to happen to enable that. So just notice what the core muscles are doing. The greater awareness we can gain of the muscles, the better effect we can have on our stretching and strengthening. Take one more rock to each direction. Good, and then with the low back to neutral, let's start to take some of the bridge poses. So we start off with the tailbone lifting off the ground, and then one vertebrae at a time lifts up high. Once you're as high as possible, roll all the way back down. Try to incorporate your breath in this. Inhale through the whole rise up. Exhale, lowering all the way down. Take a few more rounds. Notice all the muscle groups that are involved. After a few rounds, you start to notice where's beginning to get fatigued. So maybe that's the glutes. Maybe it's more of the back muscles. Maybe you're even feeling this a bit through the abdomen as well. So just notice what's going on. Notice at the top if your knees want to splay open. See if you can keep them trapped in line with your hips instead. That requires just a little bit more strengthening action. So take one more round, lifting up and eventually down. And then we'll lift up one more time to stay lifted. So at that last lift, if you have the ability to clasp hands under your back, try to clasp, maybe even walking shoulders under. Try to dome as high as possible. And here we take a few breaths. Remember, breathing is so important in Yogilates. By breathing, we're strengthening our muscles. We're using that full aerobic activity rather than trying to put our body into an anaerobic state. Take one more inhale, maybe a slightly higher lift. Exhale, release the hands, roll all the way to the ground. Good, glutes are feeling alive. So now take both legs straight up to the sky. And what we're going to do is go back and forth between trying to pull the legs in as close to the torso as you can get. Maybe you can even lift the hips off the ground a little bit. And then lower the legs partway downward. Make sure low back is flat to the ground when the legs are lowering. And so just a little lift of the hips and then a lowering while low back is flat. You don't have to go super far to feel your abdominal muscles super strongly. I like to use the exhale when the legs are coming toward me. Whatever speed we're going at, let's try to take 3 more. So here's 3. Pay attention to that low back. We're still not arching. That's what keeps our low back safe. 2. And 1. Beautiful. After that last one, bend the knees, plant the feet about as wide as the mat. Let's do a few nice windshield wipers, both sides. Knees left and knees right. Okay, let's take our legs back through the center. And then here we're gonna work our right leg there up to the sky. Let's grab behind the back side of that leg just to feel that leg stretching for us. Take a few good breaths. If you'd like to make this deeper, this left leg can slide all the way long. That'll pull the muscles just a bit more. If you're sliding it long, keep a little bit of energy in that leg, trying to straighten the leg as much as possible. Okay, we've got about 3 more breaths here. So see if the leg will extend even higher up, just a little bit. Good. And then start to lift your head, neck, and shoulders off the ground. Hover that left foot above the ground. And we're gonna do some straight leg switches. So exhale, left leg is up. Exhale, right leg back up. What I like to do is with my hands, I'm trying to pull that, whatever leg is upward, into a nice stretch. So I'm getting a stretch and core work all at the same time. Let's try to go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do one more switch to get left leg up. Relax the head down. If the head is ever curled up in positions like that and the head starts to get tired, by the way, you're welcome to just drop it back down. Do any adjustments you need to do to make your body still feel happy. Sometimes that means even coming out of the poses entirely and then taking a break and coming back into it when you can. So nothing wrong with that ever. So this is that flexibility for left leg. See what you can do to allow the muscles of the hamstring to go as long as possible. So for me, I need to keep the quadricep muscle, so the front of the thigh, slightly engaged so that there's a bit more extension through the backside. It naturally has this tendency to kind of be bent, so I need to kind of actively keep that front side squeezing to allow it to be there. Really long, really open. Okay, as we're getting closer to the second round of the straight leg switches, you've got two options this time. You could either do exactly what we were doing before, pulling in the leg that's upward each time to get that good stretch, or if you want to make the difficulty level much harder, you'll completely release your hands. Your hands will hover right above the floor, and then you'll try to muscularly do the straight leg switches all on your own. So whichever variation you're doing, we'll do an exhale switch. Exhale, switch. Again, if the neck gets tired, it's okay to drop it down. You can do this pose without the neck. Here's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, amazing efforts. Let's bend both knees in and just take a nice twist. Knees over to the left side. Spreading the arms open can help the shoulders be a part of that groundedness in this posture. So how these breaks are perfect for us slowing down the heart rate, getting back to a spot where the breath is flowing smoothly. Knees will start to lift, and let's take the knees over to the second side for that twist. Okay, when we return our hips down to the ground, let the feet return back to the planted position, close to the glutes. Fingertips will go behind the back of the head to gently lift up the head. And we're going to take circular crunches. So think of your left elbow twisting up to that top right part so that you can lift up to that right side, curl up over to the left, and then circle down. Right away, reverse the circle. So now it's the right shoulder that lifts up first. Circle around, over, and back to return. And so just keep on reversing the circle direction each time. One time clockwise, the next time counterclockwise. Think of this less about being the neck that's lifting, more about how much of my upper back and shoulders can I get off the ground at any point. Let's take 2 more each side. Beautiful. And from there, legs go back up to the sky. This time with hands on the floor. Open the legs nice and wide. And then bring the thighs back to touch. Think of this like moving through molasses. You're creating your own resistance. So see what you can help the muscles resist their way through. Take 2 more. Good. And then this left foot will just rest on the ground while we take a half happy baby with this right foot. So pull that right knee open. Notice the point at which the sacrum is still able to be flat on the ground. And notice the point at which how much you would have to pull to try to lift that off into a tilt. So we're trying to be closer to the sacrum on the ground. So see how much the hip is able to go without this left hip rising. Good. Turning this into a cradling position. Left hand takes over the foot, right hand grabs the knee, and then we can start to rock this hip out left and right. If you'd like to try to pull it into a deeper hug, that's fine as well. You get to choose exactly how deep this goes. Just notice all those muscle groups right around that hip connection to the femur. Good. Let this right ankle go onto the left thigh, and then we're gonna hug our hands around that left side. This one's nice because it's a static hold compared to that one that we just did, that larger movement. Good. Starting to release. Now the left foot gets to rest on the ground. Half happy, now the right one rests on the ground. Half happy baby for the left leg. Again, maybe experiment with pulling it so far that the hip and the sacrum have to lift, and then back off and see how far you can get toward that direction without the lift. Turning this into the cradle position, bring that foot in, and then start to rock this out left and right. And when you're ready to release, this left ankle goes to right thigh. Give the right side a hug. Okay, as we start to release this, we've got a few more poses we're going to take while we're here on our back. So this next one is again with the hands clasping behind the head. We're going to set up the pose first. So twist your right elbow to touch the left knee, and then the right leg extends out long. You choose the angle. Higher up is easier, lower down is harder. So you choose, and then we exhale, switch sides. With each exhale, we switch again. think of this, it's less about actually touching the knee. It's more about how much of my back can I get off the ground. It's that core lift. Oftentimes I see people that try to move with momentum more than with strength. So this one's a good chance to try to make sure you feel the lift each time. 5 more each. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a moment with a break, full happy baby pose, grabbing both feet. This can absolutely be with stillness, trying to pull the knees open to get the hips open, or this can be with rocking, anything that feels good. As we start to release the feet, the legs get to go up to the sky. We inhale, both arms reach up overhead. Exhale, both arms touch the outer part of left side. Inhale, back up overhead. Exhale, touch the second side. This is the easier variation, and if you need even easier, a slight bend to the knees would be how you get there. If you're wanting to go harder, the leg that you're not touching lowers down. And 3, 2, and 1. Good. Open the arms and legs to a huge figure X on the ground. Notice how lifting the arms up overhead like this does make the low back arch. So just enjoy how that arch brings the core muscles into a good stretch for a moment. So now from this figure X, we're going to touch the opposite hand to the foot above our body. So if I'm starting with right hand, I bring left foot up. And then inhale, slow, lowering down. Try to get hand and foot to touch at the same time. Switch sides. And 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, and 1. Good. Slide the arms and legs together. So arms are still up overhead, legs are still low. And just enjoy that slight arch to the low back again. Maybe even kind of easing through the shoulders. So one arm tries to reach a little bit further back than the other, and then switching, just kind of gently incorporating some of those side rib areas. And back to stillness, just 2 or 3 breaths. Good. So here, this next pose has a couple of different variations depending on where our core strength is right now. So variation 1 is trying to roll up to sit. So a nice inhale, exhale, you try to roll up. If you need to grab thighs, that's okay. You'll try to come up the best you can and then roll back down. Again, grabbing thighs is okay if you need it. So that's variation 1. Variation 2, quite a bit harder. We use our exhale to come up. We stretch over the toes, and then we inhale, come back down. exhale, the legs come up, trying to touch like a plow pose. And then inhale, rolling all the way back down. Okay? So you choose your variation, even a kind of an intermediate where you just kind of lift the back off the ground as much as possible. That's allowed as well. So whatever you can do. Sometimes the wall is a little closer. Nothing wrong with that. Little adjustment. Again, try to use the least amount of momentum possible. Try to make it a little bit slower than you want to do. So that way you're definitely building that core strength, making the core have to activate through even the very edges of our range. So that would mean if I'm sitting up, going just a little bit slower if possible. So doing that full one, including the plow pose, I'll take 3 more. If you can, whatever variation you've got going, try as much as you can to keep going those full 3 times. Obviously, breaks are always allowed. And here's 2. And last round. Good, and then we'll come up to sit one last time. So I guess I'm throwing in a bonus one. And just let yourself stretch over the legs this time. Just enjoy that bonus. Notice what the legs are, how they're communicating to you right now. What are they saying? Starting to sit back up tall, bring the inner thighs together. We're trying to squeeze our legs together. The feet are also active and the legs are active. So it's like a little contraction just to keep us here. So from this contracted space, we start off with our arms floating in front of us. This would be our inhale. With an exhale, one arm takes a backstroke and we lean partway back. That's where the core starts to become alive. Inhale, circle right back up to the tall spot. Exhale, second arm goes around and then back up to tall. Inhale, exhale. Three. 2. And 1. Last side. Good. Now lean directly back, trying to find a place where you can control and just hold. Keep the breath flowing though. We're not sticking with our breath. If it starts to get hard, try to bump up to a slightly easier spot. Otherwise, we're here just 5 more. 4. 3. 2. 1. Good. Slide the feet in closer. Circle the hands to clasp around the shin area, and then push your spine backwards. This pulls the shoulder blades away from one another. Trying to stretch that spot right in between. Straightening the spine up from here, we're setting up for a boat pose. So with this boat pose, we're trying to balance. Inhale would be arms up to sky. Exhale, hands to touch the outside of one hip. Inhale up, exhale, touch. If that's too hard at all, just drop the feet to the ground and do this nice little twist this way instead. Let the knees twist away from where your arms are going. That'll include the obliques just a little bit more. 5 more each. 4, 3, and 2. Last 1. Good, you guys are doing awesome. Let's take a cobbler pose. Maybe the neck gets to rock around, just loosening up its tightness left and right. Starting to sit up tall. Open the legs out. This is an easy angle. It's not trying to force it to flexibility. It's a good place where we have the strength to maintain it. Sitting up without hands. We start off with arms floating shoulder height. Exhale, we twist. Say I'm twisting toward the left leg. I try to reach my right pinky finger toward that left pinky toe. And then inhale right back up. Exhale, switching sides. Inhale up. Notice the sitting bones. If you're reaching so far that your opposite sitting bone is lifting, that's a little bit too much. So it's okay if you don't actually make contact. Just aim the energy for that area. Aiming for 3 more each side. 2. And last one. Good. Fingers on the floor. Just slide directly forward. Sitting up tall, we can either keep the legs here or just come to a normal seated cross-leg shape, whatever helps you to maintain that tall posture. And we'll just bring the chin down to the chest, maybe clasping hands behind the head to help weigh the head down. A little bit of leg toning while we're stretching through that neck. Okay, releasing the hands. The head floats back up. We'll cross our legs to send our way forward and through up onto hands and knees. Take a couple of breaths for your spine to move any wiggles out that you need in your spine. So if you're stretching that spot in between shoulder blades, maybe you even pause with this huge cat arch for a moment and wiggle around anything that needs the attention. If there's other angles that feel really good, pause. There's no rush here. Maybe 2 more breaths. Eventually, we're going to aim our way up toward a standing position from here. So I personally like to get to there from downward facing dog. I pause there a few good breaths, just enjoy that stretching of the legs. And then eventually I can walk my feet up to my hands. If you want to walk up there sooner than others, there's nothing wrong with that. Just enjoy that lift as long as the down dog's still helpful. And we'll be up at the top sooner or later. Good. Bending our knees. Take as much time as you need for the head to slowly roll the way up. Even if you get up and your head is getting a rush, just bend your knees for a moment, give it a break. And then we're gonna step wide on our mat, so just face the way that helps you see inward the easiest. And this is gonna be a nice wide stance. We're preparing for goddess. Test it out, make sure that if you bend down, the knees don't go past the toes. If they start to go past it, that means you're a little bit too narrow, so go slightly wider. And then we're gonna sink down. Double check that your posture is upright, so the mirror is nice and useful for that. So we've got the tailbone scooping under, shoulders stacked, arms open left and right. So from here, as the arms do little circles, we're pulsing up and down with the legs. So we'll go arm circles, 10 to each direction. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands to the insides of the knees. This one we do lean forward a little bit as we sit the hips back. They kind of counterbalance each other. I like to lock the arms straight because then leaning forward helps to push the knees wider. So really just enjoy that opening through the hips. Sometimes even a rotation can feel good. Right shoulder rotating forward. And eventually second side. Good. And then as we come back up, so this one is going to go kind of back and forth between 2 poses. First, we think of it like a big step toward that squat that we were just in. You try to go nice and low, and then you, whatever side like stepped down, that's gonna become the standing leg for us to try to balance like a star up to the sky. So it's almost like a kind of like halfway to half moon pose. And then we squat back low as we can, and then balance off to the other side. So don't feel any sense of rush. Yeah, the first couple, you'll kind of try to find your balance, and then see if you can get to a spot where you go right to that spot each time. Find something to look at on the ground to each side. Good. It's a good check-in with how our balance is even doing today. Good, let's try to do 2 more each side. Last one. And one. Whew, good work. Step the feet back wide. This time straight legs as we relax over. Any arm position that you'd like is absolutely welcome. Bend the knees to roll up. Good. Let's step to the back of the mat. This will be our last strengthening pose of the day. And then we always end with a couple of extra minutes with just nice stretches at the end of Yogilates. So here is going to be, these are called Pilates push-ups. I'm doing a little variation for these push-ups too. So just follow me step by step. So inhale, circle up to the sky. And exhale, forward fold. Walk your hands forward toward plank. You can always drop down to knees, but my recommendation is plank for this one, at least at the beginning, because we're going to try to lift the right heel up and down. 3, 2, 1, and then left heel. 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get one push up. So if you need to drop to the ground, try to keep the elbows squeezing in and then press up to down dog. Hands walk in. Take a nice inhale, exhale, inhale to rise. Good, so let's just do 2 more of those. Exhale right down to the dive. Walking forward toward plank. Right heel, 3, 2, 1. Left heel, 3, 2, 1, knees or not, one good push-up. Good. Hike up the hips, walk in, take an inhale, exhale, inhale, rise, right down to the last one. Forward fold, walking forward, plank, right heel, 3, 2, 1, left heel, 3, 2, 1, one good push up, last down dog, and walk in. Let the arms be heavy, maybe even bringing hands to the elbow creases. See how long the legs can get by this point. We're pretty warmed up. Beautiful. So let's walk our way back forward to downward facing dog. Float the right leg up to the sky. And then we'll step the right foot in between the hands. The left knee can gently drop down to the floor. And the goal here is to get this left hip, the front of it, to open. So we're already sinking hips forward. Make sure knee doesn't go past toes. Sometimes to get really good here, I need to walk myself up onto the thigh, continuing to sink hips forward. Maybe even leaning back just a hair to really maximize the front of that left hip. Another good inhale. And exhale, the front leg gets to go straight. Just drop the hands down for that really good stretch. Good. I personally like to transition through downward facing dog. So that's how I'm going to switch sides. But if you prefer just to step the other one through, that's fine. So I'm up and down dog, lift up high, left leg floats for a moment. Then step that left foot in between hands. Back knee can drop down. This is about the right psoas now. So sink hips forward, maybe hands up to the thigh. Maybe even leaning back just a hair. Notice how everything's starting to slow down in the system. Kind of heat up the core temperature quite significantly. So now everything's in a good warmed spot. These stretches help to get some of that lactic acid out of the body. It also is so helpful to work on lengthening muscles after we've warmed them and worked them. You know, a lot of bodybuilders that could use to do a little bit more stretching. As we send this one back, maybe a down dog just to kind of pedal the legs out for a moment. And then lowering back down to the knees. We'll twist this right arm to reach clear up to the sky. Pause there for a moment, doing a few wrist rolls. And then thread that right shoulder all the way under and through, trying to set it down to the ground. This left arm can stay still. It can reach up to the top of the mat, or it can circle around the low back, your favorite option. Slide the left hand in front of the face. Press into it to rise. Maybe even pausing for a cat and a cow. Good. Eventually twist this left arm to reach up high. Maybe a few wrist rolls. Eventually thread that arm under and through. This time it's the right that gets to choose which arrangement feels best. Another good inhale. Exhale, we start to unwind. Maybe a cat and a cow. And from here, we'll begin our journey towards Shavasana. So this can take a full 2 minutes or so even. What your goal is to move through any last things that feel like they need a stretch in your body. So maybe you come to a seated place to stretch the shoulders just a bit more. Maybe you come to cobbler. Maybe you stay in child pose. Maybe there's stretches on your back that you'd like to return to. This is no rush at all. Take all the time you need. Tuning into your body, you're listening for the wisdom of the body. What is that last gift we can give our body to help it feel really, really good? Still zero rush at all. There's still some of us that are in those beautiful deep stretches, so take all the time you need. You can even have 3 or 4 minutes if you need it. For those of us that are starting to head into Shavasana now, imagine that with the breath, as we're in the Shavasana, we're sending a gift of love and light, and just good feeling with our breath in toward those low 3 chakras, the root chakra for the legs, the sacral chakra around the hips, and the solar plexus chakra around the core. But the best part is it doesn't require much work. All you have to do is simply keep the breath flowing. Good deep inhales. Super long, relaxed exhales. And that way, we're helping our bodies so much to receive, to nourish the physical areas that supported us so well throughout this entire class. So just keep the breath flowing. Begin to deepen the inhales, the exhales. Introduce little movements back to fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Eventually heading to a nice fetal position on one side. Enjoy perhaps 2 or 3 good, slow, deep breaths until sooner or later you feel ready to come up to a comfortable seated position. As we arise, we'll join our hands together in front of our hearts. Taking a moment to reconnect back to that idea of really energizing, supercharging those lower 3 chakras. Just notice within your body, how do you feel compared to when we first started class? Perhaps things, at least in this area, feel a little bit lighter, a little bit more receptive to whatever is going to travel onward and appear in front of us the rest of the day. And so just simply with this idea of now we have permission, we've energized our roots and we can continue to travel our energy higher up to the upper chakras. We have permission to focus on love and compassion and peace instead of conflict. With these ideas to help lead us toward a marvelous day, let's wrap up the time we got to share together with the sound of Om. Deep inhale now. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.